Equity to me would just be like every single person in that company is treated the exact same. The only difference would be like literally what department you work in. I don't want the equity to come at the price of my comfortability. Hey. I'm Krischell, she, her, hers pronouns. I am a kindergarten paraprofessional serving DCPS. I studied biology at Mount St. Mary's University, and I'm currently a past mentee using my educational scholarship at Cal Arts to get UI UX certified. I am a lesbian cisgender woman, which is it's amazing coming into my own identity over the years, like going from my youth up until like my adulthood. It's been a journey on its own, but I am so proud of my identity and who I am. And I thank myself for, not myself, but the universe, like every day for giving me like the foresight to just be comfortable in that. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, very small community and in a Christian household. So a lot of that was very heavy on my youth. I'm not really feeling like there was a space for me to be myself, one, and comfortable in coming out to anyone, any person, anything. It wasn't until I was about probably 20 years old where I officially came out to like my family and my friends, and just struggling with that and then struggling with that in religion was a lot. But I'm proud of all of it. Like, I wouldn't have done that path any differently. Yeah, I grew up in a small religious community. Family's Christian, so being anything on the LGBTQIA spectrum was a no-no. And I remember growing up asking questions, wanting to know like, hey, is this okay? Like raising my little hand in Bible study? And they're like, absolutely not. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And it was interesting because like no matter where I turned, no matter any avenue of help I tried to seek out, it was always immediate shutdown, immediate denial, so much so that I denied myself who I was. I tried just being like, no, I'm a straight woman, it's fine, everything's okay. And the older I got, the more I felt like I wasn't being genuine with who I was, who I loved, and at the end of the day, who I wanted to be. It just took a lot of personal strength and a lot of hours of therapy to just help me get to where I needed to be to feel comfortable in that. And I'm grateful for everyone I've come in contact with who's led me and guided me up until this point. And even my family, who I thought would be the hardest to please in all of this, who have come to love me as the woman I am today. And it's scary at first, but definitely something that I wouldn't have traded, like the experience, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way because it's shaped me to who I am. It also has helped me try to help others in that. I did really love when I got to see like queer characters in like movies and TV. No one I specifically clung to. I had like older cousins who I looked up to, and like I have older sisters who I looked up to just for being like so like feminine and awesome and like just powerhouses as the women they are. But I always, I guess, never had someone that like I clung to, mainly just like the idea of being like LGBTQ, like just being queer, being myself. Like that was something that was always like just people in those spaces were like things that I was like guided towards. I've pretty much touched every state at this point. Like I've lived in Baltimore and now I've come to DC and now I'm stationed in Virginia. So, but like the line of Virginia, like right on the bridge. So Arlington area, and I love it so much. I love the culture that DC has, like especially the queer culture. I feel like it's so rich down here, and I feel more comfortable being myself in this area than I have anywhere else. I never foresaw myself as like someone moving out of Baltimore. Like my whole family's there, still there to this day, friends I went to college with and everything. And it's just little old me down here. And I just love every second of it. There's always something new for me to do, and there's always somewhere for me to go and someone new to meet as well. Probably in college, everyone says they get that space to be free and like do what they want to do without the eyes of like their family. And that was when I like took a leap of just exploring who I was as a woman and as like a queer woman. And at the time I was like, okay, maybe I'm bisexual. Like that was the life that I thought that I was able to do comfortably, while not also the religious side of me being like, no, there has to be another component somewhere there in order for you to just be comfortable in life. And over time, I just felt like still I was lying to myself. But college for sure. That bracket between there and like your like early 20s definitely helped me discover things. You're more mature, you have more freedom to go places and do things and see people and communicate. And those years were probably like the best for me, like self-discovery wise. I still feel like there's stuff I'm discovering about myself to this day, but those years for sure. Well, actually, the college I went to was a Catholic college. So it very much so greatly limited my comfortability. We had a lot of radical views at my college. Personally, I went there because that was the college that I had access to at the time. So it was either get an education or not. And once there, I was noticing a lot more like of the ideals that were kind of against people like me. But a lot of that was kept for my friends and my close like confidants at the school, which luckily there was no instance where I felt a danger for myself or that anyone I came in contact with. But with that, I feel like from what I remember, there weren't any like distinct moments that I remember there being like stuff for us, like for the LGBTQ community. We had a plethora of culture clubs, a plethora of other like not even culture clubs, but just like sports or like game type of clubs, but nothing for my community unless it was within another group. That was interesting because it was like studying biology and being queer and not really being able to talk about it to anyone else unless they were also queer. And it wasn't until like leaving college where I got to be in my community, like be in outside, like, you know, and to communicate and talk to people from that same space, like going to like queer events, like they had like I went to like a Black friend brunch, and so, but it was also for queer women. So I got to meet people who look like me and who have gone probably through similar experiences. And unfortunately, I wish that I had like stuff like that on my college campus that I could have gotten to experience. Maybe it would have made my transition into becoming the Krischell I am today a little bit not smoother, but maybe it would have given me more insight and allowed me to have more experiences that I wish that I could have gotten. My dream job when I was a tot was a fashion designer. Like I love the ways like textiles work with each other. I love putting pieces of clothes together. You could find me cutting up every piece of clothing my dolls owned and like Frankensteining them back together to make my own things. But then over time, like I had a lot of sickly family members, a lot of like the matriarchs of my family, and I found myself taking care of them, and then I fell in love with just caring for others and showing compassion to others. I was like, I think I want to do something medical now. Like that shift was like, I want to care for others, and what better way than to go towards medicine where that's 99.9% of like your job. So I went into college studying biology with hopes of being a PA or a pediatric oncologist is what I wanted to be. And got to college, dreams crushed. I was in my senior year, which is the worst year to have this revelation, but we had a panel, and there was a panel of like 5 people across their professions, all of them in things that I was interested in, and every one of them said that they were like the top of their class in my college and they graduated, and then they were at the bottom of their class in med school. And I was like, well, I'm not at the top of the class in college now, so where am I gonna be when I go to med school? And I think in that moment, I found myself thinking about my choices up until that point, thinking about, is medicine what I really wanted to do? Like, did I just kind of cling to it because like at the time when I was into art, I didn't get into art school. And so that kind of pushed me a little bit towards medicine. And then I also, like, my parents were very into the idea of me doing something else that wasn't art related. And they were like, well, you like caring for people, you've been great at helping out, like maybe you should do biology. So like, I'm starting to think like maybe I was a little bit more influenced in that way, and I didn't do the things I wanted. And upon graduating, pandemic hit. And so my goal was to get an internship with the Cancer Institute, but then the pandemic hit, everything just kind of fell through. And I ended up signing up to do a year of service with AmeriCorps. And I was like, this might help me take a break, figure out where Krischell wants to go. I went from there, did a year teaching assistant, loved it. I loved the kids. It was like I got to mix 2 parts of me. I feel like I can talk a lot and I love communicating with people. And so using that and using the creative part, I got to plan lessons, and we're all virtual. So I had to get creative, like literally buying games to play the game so I could talk about them with my students and craft lessons based off of the game software. Trying to figure out how to make all of that enjoyable for them, being stuck at home, not knowing, one, how to use a computer, or two, wanting to be there in the first place. So that reawakened the love of art for me and the love of just like creation all over again. And I found myself drawn back to my original form. And so, but this time through like digital means. And I was like, ooh, I love working through this PowerPoint, or like Canva was I love Canva. Canva was everything for me. And just getting to interact with that every day and doing little digital art. My partner got me an iPad so I could start trying to do stuff like that all over again. And then slowly over time, like 2021, 2020, that heart and that fire kept coming back. And then fast forward, I'm like trying to teach myself more digital means, like learning how to make like the slides look fancy and cool and transitional, and then TikTok and all this other stuff starts popping up. So like there's more things that I'm like, oh my God, like the way watching people interact with things is what I'm like not craving in a sense, but it's setting my heart. Like it makes me feel like I'm doing something meaningful. And so fast forward 2022, I found PAFs, and I went to you guys' panel like last year, and I was completely unaware of anything. Like I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I know I just need to talk and be in a space with people like me and people in the same field that I'm trying to get into. And I feel like that was like a changing point for me. Like I got to hear names to the things that I've been thinking of, which for me was UI and UX design. Not knowing what it was, I'm like, I just want to make things seamless and pretty and flow and usable for everyone. And that, along with teaching, I had then left AmeriCorps and went straight into DCPS, where I became a paraprofessional, which is just another assistant teacher in kindergarten rooms. And I love that. I love interacting with my kids. I love teaching them. And I love just making things easier for them to understand, and not even them, just them and their parents as well. So I was like, but I want to do this all the time, not just related to education. So yeah, that kind of got me here to where I'm like, I need like that help to get me to where I want to go. After the panel last year, getting to talk to people in their field, like there were just recruiters talking about what they typically look for, people already in their fields talking about what they do. They're there like for networking to try to transition to other things. I had to sit down and figure out what specifically draws me to STEAM, like where would I go, like, and if that aligns like with me. And so the big things that I was looking for is something where the part about education I love is the interaction period, like having you laying out something and then someone else using it to either expand their knowledge or help them get to a certain point. That's what I love watching about my students is I give them whatever and they take it and they're like, okay, that's a little hard for me to understand. And then I can rework it to make it easier for them. And that was one thing I liked about like teaching my lessons is like consistently reworking it, not even just for one kid, but there's a bunch of different ways to do things for different people, different learning like variants, different like also just like behavioral things come into it. And that's the same thing I found out about society. Like everyone's different, like ages, like races, like the way we think about things. That, and with the art aspect, getting to be creative, getting to change and use like the things that I've always been drawn to, like the colors and the fun and the transitional things. Those two things were something that I highly wanted in whatever position I did next. But the biggest thing was to be able to make something useful and better than what it was so someone else can either learn from it or continue to use it in their everyday life. That was hard for me to figure out at first because it's like, I just like teaching, but why? Or I just like designing, but why? Like what about it was drawn to me? And so then in like looking at everything, I was looking at like graphic design and I was like, okay, I do like making the things in the textiles, but there's something else there that's like completely missing. Or like illustrating, I said, I do like that, but there's still like the interaction component. Like you see it and you're cool, it's nice, but you're not really interacting with it much more than that. And so that's how I found like UI and UX, like the experience of the person behind the screen. Like, is this too big for them? Like, is this too small? Like, is this too many clicks for them? Like, has their interest gone down in like interacting with whatever? Could it be like the TV or the computer or with the iPad or the phone? Everything we use every day, always changing, but I find that a puzzle and I find that fun. And then I get to, again, use my creative vessels. So that's kind of why where UI and UX like gripped me. It's like the two sides of things I love, like interacting with people and watching them interact with my things, not my things, but like whatever I get the chance to create, and also just watching as it grows, as it changes, as time and people change, how that one thing can go. Like the iPhone, like we were at 1 and now we're at like 15. Like how those change over time to encompass like our society and encompass people, children, adults alike. And I think that was why like I settled in on like UI and UX. Specifically, the goal is to do it for educational interfaces, because I just love education at my core, but I think my heart and where my journey lies would be more so not in a classroom, but helping those who have to interact with anything classroom related, because that is hard. And not even that, just interacting with the interfaces from like a business point of view or additional stakeholder point of view, like not just families and children, but anyone who has to interact with educational face, especially today where we're learning new things all the time. There's always something popping up, and I want to make sure that everyone can see it, interact with it, and our children get the best education because they're tomorrow's leaders. Anything with that, like, is just what drew me to UI and UX specifically. As the years go on and as we see things in our climate and our political culture, the need for community is so important. The need for having those you can lean on is so important. And I know how hard it is also for just one person to like take that place and be like, I will stand in my space for all of you. And it only takes truly one person to do that for the rest to follow. Having other people who come before you try to like walk so you can run, and then you run so like the others can just like fly. Like, I think it's so necessary. And I'm really grateful for everyone who has made me, like helped me on my journey, or the people who I have helped on like their journey. That I've had people come to me and from like spaces I've been in and be like, hi, I can't say anything about this, but it makes me so comfortable that you are able to, and you're able to do it proudly, because that's something I wish I could do. More than ever, that's honestly why I love the STEAM field. I feel like as far as like me and who I am, the more I watch like what's happening and stay up to date, like I'm like following Girls Who Code and like following like the things that PASS does and LGBT Tech does, and like seeing how so many people are doing so many great, amazing things. It makes me more hopeful that these fields are stuff that I can get into, because it's something that there's a spot for me there. I would say I'm excited to finish my courses because I am so close. I'm so close to the end, and the longer I've been in them, like I'm seeing all the pieces come together. Like it still feels fun to learn, and that was my worries, that like I attach a name to my goals, and is it going to be what I hoped? And it is. And it's scary but fun, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm on the right path, and I'm excited to see who I am on the other side of it. But it's also fun because I get to do the things that I've wanted to do. All the parts of me are now coming back together. I do adore teaching. Like, I do love watching my students from the first day they walk into my room, from the last day, them grow and change, and even their ideas and experiences have now changed in communicating with me, and just me being able to change things in the room to make it easier for them to understand or learn. You were able to benefit off of something that I was able to rework so your mind could understand it. And that's amazing. That for me, that's affirming for the work that I want to do, because it's like I'm doing it in a different role, and it still makes me feel like good. Like my little heart, it makes me happy. My goal is to really do digital design for educational interfaces, or like nonprofits that are related to that. Companies that like help people get in touch with like different educational platforms to aid their children, or not even that, just for parents to better help educate their kids, or just things that help make the education process simpler, or put them in contact with people that can help them with that. I grew up with not the best primary and secondary education, and I struggled a lot through that phase. Wishing that I had like parents who were able to help a little bit more with that, or understand more directly what I was going through without feeling overwhelmed by like the educational process, or just being like, this is too much, I'm not really gonna do it. It helps when you have someone, either one who can understand it, or two, like can walk you through it. And so that's my goal, is to work for companies that deal directly with educational interfaces, or who help families, like put them in contact with people to help them with that, using any platform related to get them there. Like, it's nothing that's like a tedious task. It's something that is a quick 1-2, and like, you figured it out. It was easy to use, and also it was enjoying to look at in the process. Or even that, kids are so smart. Having your kid help you navigate. If I can make it easy for a child to get through it, I want that to be the same for an adult. It should not be hard to get your kid what they need. And that for me would be like the ultimate like pairing goal. It's like aiding their educational experience while also being able to do the things that I love. So it's like 2 and 2. It's a beautiful thing. It's been so affirming, like being in this program, in the meetings, our mentorship meetings. Well, one's with my mentor and one's with like us as a whole group. The first meeting, I was like, oh my God, I feel so good, because I was at the later end of the age bracket. So I was terrified, because I'm like, there are so many like deserving like 18-year-olds and like and up, and like I would want them to get this more than anything, because I'd wish I'd have had that foresight in college, and they need that like now more than ever. So to even be like blessed with that opportunity, I was like, oh, there's somebody's looking out. And I really, really was so excited, because I'm in a room with people who are all either going under career transitions, trying to figure out what place in the STEAM field they're going. Some are like parents, some aren't parents. Like, it's so affirming. And that's what I want, that community aspect, watching all of us with shared experience. Some of them I follow on Instagram, and I get to see their lives. Like, it's just been on the community aspect so affirming. And then the classes. So I used to work 3 jobs at the same time, and I had no additional finances for anything. And it was really stressful, because I knew there were places I needed to go and things I needed to do, but I had no space. So the grant has allowed me to do the classes, but also get the interfaces that are like the industry standard, because a lot of them need subscriptions nowadays, or you can't just have a baseline. You have to have so many things and so many like competencies that you need at like an entry level field. And being able to work on these interfaces, learn how to use them without having to worry about anything like extra. It's so surreal sometimes, because it's like I look back and I'm like, wow, I got a grant, like, wow, that's crazy. And I never would have thought that would have been just in a year's time frame how much my life has changed. And then my mentor, like Brian, like he's awesome, like getting to communicate with him and to see like how he works in his workspace, how he communicates with others, how he's definitely helped guide me, let me communicate with people who are gonna help me see where I'm trying to go. It's something that I feel like no one should trade out that experience. If anyone has the opportunity to meet or like go to like a PAFS event or LGBT tech event, like please, like it's, as like a 25-year-old, it's changed my life. I'm very grateful for this experience. And if I have to like shout it from the mountaintops, like to other people, like to try, like not even try, just go to one of the panels, because it all started for me at the panel. If I hadn't gone, like, oh, I don't know, like I probably would not be sitting in this chair, but it's been a grateful experience, and I am like so thankful for it. I've worked in like retail, restaurant business, like retail's retail, woo. Like, you know, like you see people from all over. Restaurants, same thing, woo. But in my professional, like so far workspaces, like I don't feel any different being out, but I still come in contact with people that make me feel like I would have rather not said anything at all. And it's unfortunate, because it's not my burden, but it's a lot having to explain myself and my identity all the time. And it's not something that I'm sure anyone is comfortable with, because that's your personal business. And also that shouldn't have to be who I am walking into a workplace, or I should not have to be the person to explain this, like whatever's happening with my community in the workplace. And for me, like I haven't personally seen anything like within DCPS. I would have, if there is somebody, holler at your girl. I would love to see it, but I haven't seen anything that's made me feel like comfortable in my skin. We do have things within my school community that give space for our students who are queer and who, even from a young age, I work with elementary school kids. So that for me is like, oh, I love that, because like even if I'm not getting it at my professional level, I want them to have it at like a human level. I haven't like had spaces for me, but I've also not felt 100% comfortable. In my experiences, I've just never have been 100% comfortable in my workspace with my sexuality. And that's also why I'm like very much into a transition. Like I want to go somewhere where I don't have to explain myself. I could be around like-minded people and we share the same sentiments and the same ideas and the same struggles. And I want a workplace that I can call home at the end of the day. Personally, it all starts like up, like with administration, and then it like kind of trickles down. I would love to see just a space for queer people to be together, to talk about their shared experiences in the workplace. If there are any moments they've had, like a high or a low during the week that just maybe hit them on a personal level with their identity, or not necessarily that, but just on like a human level, because at the end of the day, like we're still humans. Like we're us, I'm Krischell, but I'm also like Krischell is a lesbian woman. So it's like there's two sides of me that I want represented in my workplace at all times, because it's like that's who I am. But I still want to know there are other people there who are having shared experiences, and we have a moment to be around each other, and that also administration is making sure that we feel comfortable and that we feel supported. I don't want to feel isolated, and I don't want to feel like shut out in that way. I want to make sure that everyone is there for one another, like altruistically. I let the fear of my religion, I let like others stop me from doing so many things so early that it caused me to give up on certain parts of myself. It's caused me to have to undo damage of like hating things about myself, like listening to my heart, listening to what I knew was right, and just going for it, like kissing that girl, or like, I don't know, like, you know, just wishing that I'd listened to myself and let it take its course. Like, if you feel naturally like this is where you are, this is who you're meant to be, like go for it. Art, if I wanted to do it, just don't let anything else get in the way. Even with like my journey through like realizing I'm a lesbian woman, like just going through it, like not letting anything external stopping me from reaching who Krischell is, or reaching my future and stuff like that. I really wish I just let myself breathe and go through it, and that like fear is okay, but don't let it like incapacitate you. I will say like the best piece of advice, and this is what I've been like telling people, is to align and find community within the place you're trying to go. Discovering like paths in LGBT tech has been so affirming, because I found the community, and through that making personal connections, realizing like there are so many more other fields, so many more other job descriptions that I've never even would have heard of. I found the most help I found like being in a space with my peers, because you're able to gravitate towards companies or gravitate towards roles that you feel not only your peers have had comfortability being in as a queer person, but roles or companies that was like, oh, well, they didn't really have an open space for me as a person on like the LGBTQI diaspora. Like I never felt truly safe in that space. So you're able to see like, okay, well, that's a big portion of who you are. You would want to listen to like your peers and like take their advice. And like so much advice that I've been given throughout this experience and throughout like meeting the people I've met has been so helpful in like directing me towards like things I want to, like companies I want to work for, or like things I want to stay away from, or even building like resume or aligning myself with certain causes. Like that definitely helps in getting you to wherever you need to go. It's scary to like let yourself listen to other people's advice, because like that may have worked for them, but what if it works for me? But just taking it and running with it and aligning yourself in a community that makes you feel safe and comfortable definitely has helped me get into the space and realize where I want to go.